This is the story of a sister who was related to a famous singer whose success overshadowed their own. Erma Franklin, Aretha Franklin's sister, is the focus of today's story. Now, since you made it this far, please be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay up to date. Now, without further ado, let's cue that intro. Erma Vernice Franklin was born in Shelby, Mississippi on March 13, 1938. She is Barbara and Reverend C.L. Franklin's eldest daughter. Her father was a traveling minister whose voice took him all across cities all over the country. Growing up in a house with three siblings, an older brother named Vaughn and two younger sisters named Aretha and Caroline. Franklin's parents would separate when she was 10 years old, and her mother would take Vaughn and move to Buffalo, New York in 1948. On March 7th, 1952, her mother would sadly pass away. She would pick up a microphone for the first time at the age of 5. And this is where her and her sisters would sing in their father's choir. The family would pack their belongings and relocate to Detroit. Now, all three Franklin sisters had golden voices, and knowing this, their father always supported his daughter's dreams of singing. Franklin would develop an interest in secular music, even learning to sing it. Franklin was a member of an all-girls group called the Cleopatras in high school. This group would travel all around the Detroit area, even travel around the entire state of Michigan, winning competitions on the way. The group popularity throughout the state had led into the group landing a deal with a local label titled WBP Records. The group would release 2 singles in 1953 titled Say Would You Babe and No Other Love. The group would disband shortly after high school, and for 2 years, Franklin, she would tour with her father's gospel group. Now, Berry Gordy and Billy Davis had noticed her talent during this tour, and they was ready to put everything behind her. But her father, he wanted her to further her education, so she would go off to college and attend Clark College in Atlanta. She would major in business administration. When she returned to Detroit, she was met with some heartbreaking news. Gordy had wrote a song about a heartbreak in a relationship, but since she went off to college, he had gave the song to a young Etta James. And this song will become known as All I Could Do Was Cry. Now, her younger sister Aretha, she began seriously singing and had desires of chasing a career. Their father would take the girls to New York to audition for Columbia Records. Columbia took a liking to Aretha and signed her to a contract, while Erma, she was assigned to the subsidiary label Ep2 Records. Now, R&B wasn't Epic's main priority at the time, so when it came to promotion, she really didn't get none. Her debut album was titled Her Name Is Erma. This was released in 1962, and the album completely produced 0 hits. As a result of her debut album, Epic would release her from her contract. And around this time, Aretha Franklin, her career began to take off. Now, Erma, she would meet the owner of Shout Records, Burt Barnes. She began working closely with Barnes, and he gave her a song that would catapult her career to newer heights. And on December 10th, 1967, Piece of My Heart was released. And this song peaked at number 62 on the Billboard Hot 100 charts and number 10 on the Billboard R&B charts. The song will also receive a Grammy nomination for Best R&B Vocal Performance, but she was defeated by her sister. Now, Barnes, he would suddenly die of a heart attack while working on her second album. Her album will be shelved and her career will be put on hold once more. Barnes had an opportunity to propel Franklin's career to new heights. Big Brother and the holding company would later cover her most famous song. And of course, this version is the most well-known version. Since Barnes' death, labels such as RCA and Brunswick have been lining up to sign Franklin. Franklin, she would decide to go with Brunswick because her sister was working for RCA at the time. Erma had approached the label in 1968 with an amazing idea. She wanted Aretha and her team to produce her album. The label, they thought of this idea and they thought it was good, so they approved it. But tragedy would soon strike. Aretha Franklin's saxophone player, who she was very close with, was killed. And Aretha, she took this death hard. So the album, it was put on hold. But as soon as everything began starting back up, the label decided to cancel the idea completely. Franklin's tongue after this move was tainted with bitterness. In 1968, she would finish the album, and the album will be called Soul Sister. This album will produce one hit single titled Gotta Find Me a Lover, which peaked at number 40 on the Billboard R&B charts and number 20 on the UK charts. Now, after giving the label the album, she was mentally done with the music industry and decided to sit out the rest of her contract until the mid-70s. She will eventually leave the industry for good, with the exception of a few special occasions to sing with her sister, such as singing background for Aretha Franklin's signature song, Respect. Franklin would marry Thomas Garrett, who she would go on to have 2 children with. She would work at the Batesville Holy Cross Community Center for 25 years after leaving the industry. Franklin, she would sadly die on September 7th, 2002 at the age of 64 for cancer. Erma's story never had a chance to be told because every time she had a chance, something happened to derail it. If you haven't heard Piece of My Heart, I highly recommend it. Listening to that song, or any of her songs in general, you would just know that she would have been a big star if she would have just gotten a chance.